Well, welcome back into Panorama of the Bible Online. We now move into Movement 4, which we call the Conquest. And I'm going to have you always in your mind put Conquest in air quotes because Movement 5 will begin with incomplete conquest, okay? So Conquest, and we got to first catch up on where we've been. So hopefully you are memorizing the timeline, so let's kind of say it together, be saying it out loud a lot, be working to memorize the timeline. Movement number 1 we call Prologue, and it has 4 key events. They are creation, fall, flood, tower. Then the second movement of the Panorama timeline is the patriarchs with 4 key people: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph. And we looked at their characterizations and how we would describe them. The third movement is a long one. And this is the one where people begin to fade and lose it. So keep up. This is why we're doing this. It's a double movement. It's redemption and wandering. Instead of a place of blessing, the Israelites find themselves in a place of slavery or bondage. We have a new leader named Moses who squares off with Pharaoh in a steel cage death match over 10 plagues. And they're answering the question, who has the right to rule? And the 10 plagues essentially say Yahweh. And then we have 3 key events of the redemption portion, and those are the Exodus event, the Sinai event, and the Tabernacle event. Now, as they wander, we have to first go to the land, and before we go to the land, we have to prepare to depart. Then we have they depart, but they're going to fail at Kadesh Barnea in what we call in the Panorama timeline rebellion. Because of their rebellion, trusting the majority report instead of the minority report, they are now forced to wander for 40 years until they find themselves on the plains of Moab. And that's where session 3 ends. And now we begin Movement 4, which is Conquest. On the plains of Moab, we saw the death of the previous leader, Moses. He delivers the second law, Deuteronomy, and then Moses, he dies. And so what we have is a new leader raised up, and that leader will be Joshua. There's a key figure that we're going to see show up later in the biblical narrative. They're going to encounter a prostitute, a woman named Rahab. And so we mark her, Joshua and Rahab. And then there's 3 key events of the conquest movement. They are to get into the land, they first have to enter the land. So enter the land, then they conquer the land, and I like to think they subdue the land. Then they possess the land. Enter, conquer, possess, and then we end this movement with Joshua's farewell address, which most of us know because part of that farewell address, I would bet, is in a lot of your kitchens in the house you grew up in. Joshua says, "Choose this day whom you will serve, but as for me and my house," usually it's carved out of some kind of wood or carving board or on a poster. Sometimes it's on a plaque in the bathroom. "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." And that is Joshua speaking to the nation of Israel before he is to go and die. And so that's at the end of the book of Joshua. And with that, we will now dive in looking at the biblical books. And what you should be expecting, and you get it on page 62, is once again a chart. There's the chart. The horizontal chart to show you how the story of Joshua unfolds. And these charts, once again, are trying to help you see the narrative, the big picture of the narrative distilled into something you can visually see. And so there's your chart. There's the movement. It's Joshua, Rahab, enter, conquer, possess, Joshua's challenge. And with that, we'll dive in.